The ZA Tech Show is made possible by Vodacom. Power to you at vodacom.co.za. And by BlackBerry. Love doing business on your BlackBerry smartphone at blackberry.co.za.
Good evening and welcome to episode 205 of the ZA Tech Show. I'm Sam Beckbessinger and I will be your host this evening, which is great because I missed all of you individually listeners. If you're watching us live, and you should because it's more fun, it is Monday the 2nd of April, the day after April Fool's Day. So joining me in this thematically very silly panel this evening, we have two quite exciting guests. We have Mr. Dave Greenway. Dave, welcome to the studio.
Great to be back.
How are you doing?
Good. How's your trip?
It was fine, thank you. I've just come back from London. Although coming back from London is hard because you have to somehow get used to not having Spotify and not having incredibly fast mobile broadband everywhere.
So not having real internet.
Yeah.
Stuff, you know.
It was quite sad.
Oh,
but
well.
Yeah, no, it was great.
Third world pains.
And also joining us, bringing his silliness to the table tonight, Ben Kelly. How are you this evening, Ben?
I'm very well, Sam. I'm just here to bring the Mac so we can do nice cast.
That's all that Ben offers.
They realized they had two PC people, so they said, quick, get somebody who's actually got a real computer.
Yeah, I don't know how that happened. Wow, I feel.
So I got a panicked phone call. Actually, not a panicked email. I don't get panicked from the gods of the ZA Tech Show.
Yeah.
I got an email.
The gods of the ZA Tech Show.
Can you come? And I went, okay.
Oh, well, we're equally disappointed.
And that was before I knew Sam was going to be hosting.
We're equally disappointed that you're here, Ben, but you know. No, I lie. It's great to have both of you joining us this evening. So let's start off talking about April Fools. Did either of you get caught by any of the hoaxes that were going around yesterday?
I didn't. I know that it's April Fool's Day, and I see an article, and I'm going, no, this is like really strange.
You're too smart for them, Ben.
And it takes me a few minutes to realize it's actually an April Fool's joke. But this time, maybe because it was a Sunday, I was sitting in bed going, I woke up and I kind of went, I wonder what the April Fool's jokes are.
There we go. It's because you have a skeptical journalist brain. They can't pull the wool over your eyes. Dave, did anything catch you?
I woke up first thing in the morning. I was like, it's April 1st. Nothing's going to get me. Then I went back to sleep and woke up again and things started getting me. I was very upset with
give us examples.
No, I think the only one that I really saw was like, I saw Richard Branson's little... I saw the headline of, his
Virgin
volcanic thing where he's going to burrow it. Then I read the article and I was like, no, this is an absolute
that always gives it away.
And then my favorite thing is always checking out what Google does.
Yeah.
Google Tap was by far
that was
my
very
favorite
funny.
of this
I
year.
loved the Google 8-bit Nintendo
The
Google
SNES
Maps, which
Google
was
Maps,
really, really funny.
The only thing I was disappointed was that they didn't put music over it.
Yeah.
I was kind of thinking
That would be better.
I was expecting Pac-Man music over it.
Yeah, that's brilliant.
And I was quite disappointed that there wasn't, that they didn't add a soundtrack to Google Maps at the same time.
There was one that actually caught me so badly that my finger was on the tweet button before I started thinking about it, which was something that TechCrunch reported, which was that Facebook was considering adding a hate button. But then when you read the article, it was like, and in addition to the hate button, there's going to be a meh button.
I could do with a meh button.
Yeah. Hate's less so, but I'd love a little meh
I'd like
button.
a dislike and a meh button. It's like so-and-so has just been to the podiatrist and has had the most wonderful mani-pedi. And I'm like...
Do you get mani-pedis with podiatrists? Actually, I'd love I don't want to hear about your infants on Facebook button. A button just for that,
Yes.
I was just like
maybe that's me.
Shame button.
Possibly.
Maybe South Africa specific.
Your boss brought up a very good point. We need an Instagram for pets and babies so that we can take it off of Instagram for everyone
and put
else.
it somewhere else. Yeah, I think that's brilliant.
There was one story which it wasn't an April Fool's joke.
Yeah.
Because I read it and I reread it and I read it the third time. And it was a story about this one guy whose surname happens to be Cool, who's a mountaineer.
His surname is Cool?
His surname is Cool.
Oh, okay. All right.
Okay.
The word Cool.
His surname is Cool. Royden Cool, I think it was. And it was on the Guardian site. And it was about how they were taking this one guy who died on Everest, got given a medal by years and years and years ago.
Yeah.
This was in the sort of 20s by the king at the time. And he died on Everest. And they were going to take the medal up Everest. and leave it on Everest, which I thought was a really nice story. And then they were talking about this guy, and his wife's name is Jazz. And I'm thinking, your name's Jazz, cool. And I'm thinking, could this possibly
too good to be
be
true.
an April Fool's joke? But everything else,
Yeah.
I mean, unless they went and doctored Wikipedia articles and photographs.
That is actually,
the guy's name is cool. They didn't mention his wife, but I just think.
But I mean, if your husband is Jazz, cool. I mean, even if your name was something like Delilah, you'd have to change it to something equally
Yes,
awesome.
Yeah. So I mean, if your surname's cool and you marry somebody called Jazz, I just thought that was like so awesome.
Brilliant. Yeah, so April Fool's Day jokes, hey? I read something on, I think it was in Gadget, which was kind of debating whether or not the internet has kind of killed April Fools, because if you have, a moment's doubt of whether something might be real or not, you can just check it immediately, right?
That is
Pretty
true.
much.
Yeah.
And I mean, did you see the Conan O'Brien taking over as CEO of Mashable?
Yeah, brilliant.
What did he pay? $3,500 and something dollars, and he can kick Pete Cashmore off straight away. It's
Yeah.
a bit far away from like the couple of $1 million he was apparently going to be offered by CNN a few weeks ago.
Absolutely.
Yeah, so it was, I thought it was quite amusing.
Absolutely.
But I think it has. I think there's still like I think the chance the internet has made the option for you to like check whether it's a fake or not much easier.
Yeah.
It's also enabled you to look like an idiot by
Posting
sharing it to
like I
everybody
very
else
nearly
and saying,
did.
look,
Yeah.
I got caught by this one. A lot easier as well.
Yeah,
so
definitely.
I guess it swings and roundabouts for April Fool's Day.
Definitely. So on to some more serious news this week. I'm going to start with the piece of news that I'm most excited about at the moment, which are the increasing rumours that South Africa may well walk away with the SKA project. I say walk away like it's the Grammys, we're going to stand up on the stage and thank, the powers and all of that. But very, very exciting. And the rumours kind of come from, apparently there were some leaked sort of discussion documents that went around the SKA panel. And I think the biggest sign that South Africa's chances are very good is that Australia, who's obviously our biggest rival for hosting the SKA, is they published some points of contention and reasons South Africa can't host the SKA, which just makes them sound a bit bitter, doesn't it? I'm sorry if any of our listeners are Australian.
I'm not.
Me neither.
I'm sorry if any of our listeners are Australian. Let me say that in a different way. But yeah, I mean, if South Africa wins that project, obviously it's going to be huge for the technology industry.
It's
here.
absurdly massive in terms of the scale of the actual thing. And I saw IBM today was awarded a contract. They have to build an exabyte computer system basically capable of processing all of the data that's going to be
well,
coming.
it's something. It's something like the amount of data that the project will produce every single day is double the amount of traffic on the internet, or something like that.
Yeah.
It's
No,
crazy.
Look, it's only, I think, 2024 when it's fully built and everything, so it's twice
But by
the current
then,
data on the
you'll have an
internet.
Exa computer in your phone.
I'll just hold up my iPad and plug it in for them.
Exactly. Yeah. No, they're making it sound like so much of a mission, but I mean, really.
Really, IBM. What are you?
the iPad
Come on,
17,
don't be
that's all
so
you're building.
dramatic. Little drama queens, little
exactly.
exascale computer.
Yeah, no, but it's it's really exciting from a point of view that it's not only as a job creation, but it's also going to make science cool for kids to go and they're going
Definitely.
to leave school and they're going to be like, I'm going to go do something sciencey, which is really, really cool for the rest
There's
of us.
science in this shit. Don't touch it. Yeah.
Exactly.
The other part I really love about the SKA is that we don't have to pay for it.
Yeah, absolutely.
It's like this is an internationally funded project. So it's not like my tax rands going at work. This is like real money and real jobs coming into the country, and everybody else is going to pay for it.
And some great scientists coming through. So
Yes.
hopefully some brilliant guest lectures if you happen to be based at UCT, because that's kind of en route. I must say, if we do get the SKA, I'm going to seriously consider moving to that little Dorpie in the Karoo, because they're going to have the fastest internet access in the world.
They're just going to have a giant chunk of fiber just like running. Like, it's going to be like Main Street with the post office and like the one supermarket where everyone knows everyone, and then there's just going to be this giant trench with fiber optic cables right
up
next
to the
it.
liquor store. Oh my goodness, small
Ooh, a liquor
town
store
Karoo.
with fiber.
Well, Karoo town. All they
question
have
is-
is Joshua doors and liquor
The
stores.
question is, are you allowed to have Wi-Fi? Or will you have to be
I
walking
doubt.
from one place to the other, plugging in your
I'm
your
pretty
computer?
sure that they won't allow Wi-Fi.
I'm
or
sure.
not
Yeah,
anything
I'm sure I
strong.
read about some restrictions.
But it's
But I suppose Wi-Fi is
also
also
that
so
there's
low
the
power.
little town, and then you still have to drive like 4 or 5 k's before you actually get in, and then it's still spread out over a square kilometer.
Yeah.
They were saying
Well-
the surface area is something like literally the distance of the continental US. Like the distance across is the same. It's like
It's incredible, hey?
It's the size of the antennas all put together is 1 square kilometer, but that's spread out.
But it spreads out over
thousands of square kilometers.
Absolutely. And it's beautiful because if you see it kind of, or you see the models from an aerial view, it kind of spirals out of the continent, because that's apparently how they can create this effect of a single giant telescope.
I just think it's so fantastic.
Incredible stuff. We live in exciting times.
I always think of Contact when Jodie Foster's sitting on her car
way
with
before
her
my time
headphones
here,
on.
Ben. I don't know what you're talking about. No,
Have you not seen Contact?
No, I'm kidding. Of course I have. I'm a real geek. It's okay. So talking about fiber, another kind of interesting thing that's happened this week is that Telkom announced that it is trialing fiber to the home. And I just want to say to anyone who might be listening who works from Telkom that pick me. I have a home. You can put fiber to it.
Yeah, I'll take 2.
I can tell you a nice little street in Veltevreden Park where it loops around on itself. It's a nice closed environment.
Come on, you live in a cave. No one's going to take fiber to your cave.
Me and the bunnies.
Yeah, totally.
Hey, I'm fine with living in a cave as long as it has fiber.
Fiber cable.
One Ethernet port and a large fiber pipe.
Yeah.
And we were cool.
Absolutely. So, that's quite exciting. Obviously, Lord knows what that means if you kind of read that piece of news in conjunction with all of the kind of going back to square one in terms of their tenders for upgrading their whole infrastructure.
Look, they announced it, but they still said that they've been trialing out fiber to FTTX, so fiber to the exchange, and they've been trialing out, to corporate business parks and large gated communities. I think Drainfern has their own little FTTH
and places like Jackal Creek and Eagle
like
Canyon
have already been getting it. But the point is that to make your exchange would have to be close enough to your house.
Yeah.
And I don't think they're going to run straight fiber. What they were saying is they're going to do FTTX, so fiber to the exchange, and then from there they'll upgrade your exchange to something like VDSL2, which can do like 40 to 100 megs a second, which has only been overseas for 5 years, 6 years.
No.
The problem that we're facing now is that they had a big tender which went out, and which Hawaii and Alcatel.
I know it's ZTE
Alcatel-Lucent won, and ZTE took them to court and won an interdict on Friday. So that would have been the 30th of March. And so that's going to hold up their rollout. And the problem is also that maybe we're going to see the new Telkom, but the old Telkom says, we got this ADSL thing. We're going to trial it for like 3 or 4 years, and then maybe we'll let some other people play with it. Because they literally did. They trialed ADSL for 3 or 4 years before they let us, before they loosed it on the wild. And,
I don't think they'd get away with that these days with ICASA watching them so closely.
Yeah, but ICASA, for all they're watching, is actually pretty ballless. They don't actually do anything. They sit there and they like wrap them over the knuckles, and they're like, you will have this, you will have like LTE, you will have all the spectrum stuff sorted by the end of April. And they're like, but it's fine if you do it for September as well.
But I'm not ICASA's biggest fan.
Yes.
If you listened to the show last week, you'll know myself and Arthur had a good old rant at ICASA. But the issue is that the ICASA said that Telkom were going to drop their IP Connect prices at the beginning of April 2012, and 31st of end of March they announced 30% drop in IP Connect costs, which is fantastic news for ISPs and hopefully for consumers, because it means that for those who don't know what IP Connect is it's the pipe that if you want to if you want to link your ISP to the ADSL network, so if you want to play in the ADSL game, you have to buy a little pipe which connects you to the ADSL, your network to the ADSL network. And Telkom knows that that's the bottleneck, and they charge what's the right
premium.
word? Yes.
And through the bum.
A lot
Let's
for
just
it.
say that,
and so a 30% drop in that. Even if the ISPs say, well, we're going to keep our pricing the same, they could throw an extra 30% of IPC into the mix.
Yeah, this is kind of what MWeb was saying.
That's what MWeb said, exactly. They said that they're going to buy up some more backhaul or whatever to ensure that because I think MWeb's probably one of the only people that actually has bandwidth on both cables. They have, I think it's the old school SAT3 cable that Telkom uses. They use that as a backup, and then they've got all their bandwidth mainly on CCOM.
Yeah.
So for MWeb subscribers, particularly when there's a big balls up on CCOM, they don't get hits as hard as everyone else. Their speeds slow down, but they don't get destroyed. And I think MWeb said they were going to plow some money into buying more redundancy on their line and then still drop the price.
So, I mean, when you look at this and you add up kind of all the new cables landing over the next couple of months, hopefully, in 9 months' time, we're going to be getting a little bit more bang for our buck.
Yeah. Hopefully. Look, I mean, all the cables don't help if they can't get that bandwidth back to,
absolutely,
back to the consumer. And that's...
I mean, that's where IPC comes in.
Sure. Well,
and what I mean, the problem is that ISPs have had to play loose and fast and loose with their contention ratios in the ADSL space, especially the lower end of the market. And if those guys can get a little bit of more, like 50% of the reduction and plow it into increased IPC thing, that will lower their contention ratios and take the other one and put it into the profit margins, then everybody's happy.
Yeah.
We as the consumers get a bit of an extra speed boost, and
Game of Thrones comes down 5 seconds faster. Oh yes. Yeah, it's a good year for geek TV. Sorry, bit of a thing.
Good year for geek everything.
Oh yeah, big time. Geek movies, geek books, big time. So yeah, broadband looking quite exciting. Something else that happened this week, which is much less serious and more on the silly side and talking about geek movies and things. So of course they're making a movie about Steve Jobs. They're calling it Jobs, very, very, indie and minimalist and all of that.
Monosyllabic.
And who do you guys think is playing the said Steve?
Not that we don't know.
Yeah.
We're not going to spoil your...
Oh, come on, just pretend.
Who's Sam?
Come on, please. It's the great Ashton Kutcher, which is just beyond strange.
Not really. Okay.
He looks like Steve. He looks like a younger Steve.
There was that article on Tech Central today where they did a couple of photos of him.
I didn't see that.
Dead on the same as Steve Jobs. They've got two photos where he looks pretty much identical to him. I don't know if it's the angle or whatever, but he looks very good. And let's be honest, he is actually very geeky. I mean, he's been plowing a lot of his money into startups and stuff.
Yeah.
It's, I don't know, give the guy a chance.
Yeah, I mean, whenever I think of Ashton Kutcher, I know he's come a long way, but I keep thinking of that 70s show and the kind of floppy hair and difficult to take seriously. But yeah, I mean, do you think we need a movie about Steve? Do you think it's time?
No, they're riding the profit wave. I mean, there's so much money his book made, and they just want to cash in on that.
The thing is that the story's largely been told.
Yeah.
What are they getting? It's not like Titanic where you can sort of superimpose this fictional love story now in 3D.
Well, now in 3D.
onto a historical story.
I'm going to go and watch that just for my 12-year-old self who watched Titanic 6 times in the cinema will tell you. Yeah, that's
I only watched it 4 times.
I shouldn't say that in public.
James Cameron is badass. Man's been down to the deepest point on Earth in his little submarine. He went down to the bottom of the Marianas Trench to the very deepest point in like what looked like basically a giant teardrop shape of metal. It was actually very cool. Like he's the first solo person to go down. I know there was another 2 guys that went down.
It was 1950.
1950 was the last time when
the first people went down to the bottom of the Marianas Trench, and that's like. I mean, that's
and they
60 years since anybody went there. Yeah.
There's a part of me, the cynical part, that thinks, well, you're going to go down. It's going to be pretty dark. You might see the odd fish.
There's not much there.
Is it that exciting?
Last time the guys went down, they kicked up so much silt that their pictures came back blank, basically. This time he went down for, I think, like 19 or 20 hours or something stupid like that. So he literally went down for long enough that, you could sit there and actually get some pictures.
I love the fact that he tweeted from the bottom. It was like the man is at the lowest point on Earth.
It's pretty amazing.
If that submarine had to like spring a leak, you would be dead in seconds.
How did he do that?
But I guess they had a cable.
Yeah, they had a cable going up to the ship.
To probably pull him up.
Yeah,
afterwards.
Brilliant.
No, actually, they didn't need to pull him up. Basically, what happened was it could either jettison its weights or whatever, and if that system failed, they had like a failover system where the cables holding on the ballast or whatever were corroded by seawater over time. So at a planned point, I think 65 hours in, which he had enough food and oxygen for. He had like
65 hours.
He had like 9 days worth of oxygen or something in there, but like it literally would have snapped through the cables and just sent him up.
It'd just be really smelly once he got to 65 hours.
I think he'd be really smelly either way.
Amazing.
Pretty much.
Yeah.
So, I mean, the thing about Steve, sorry, back to what we were talking about, as you said, I've had a lot of very odd conversations with quite surprising people about the Steve Jobs biography. I was in a taxi a couple of weeks back, and the guy who was driving the taxi was telling me about the Steve Jobs biography that he was reading. South African taxi, not a minibus, like an evening
transit vehicle.
Yeah, like where there's 2 people, not 50 people. One of those. We had a long chat about the Steve Jobs biography. So I think everyone has read it.
It's very
suffice to say.
It is very. It's also very very interesting. I've had very differing comments from some people. So I read it and I thought that if you were a manager, you could take some really interesting positive lessons from the way he...
You could also take the lesson, be a douchebag to your staff, be controlling.
But I didn't take out... I mean, I knew Steve Jobs was a douchebag to his staff.
Yeah.
You know? So I suppose I knew that already, But speaking to some of the people I deal with who are managers, it was like they saw it and they said, oh, it's like a handbook on how not to manage a company.
Yeah.
And I'm thinking, no, it's not. There are lessons in there about how not to manage people. But there are also lessons in there about how to run a company really well, and how not to give up your dreams and not to accept mediocrity, and so as a manager, there are positive lessons, and you kind of have to filter it. But other people sort of was like completely negative. It was like everything Steve Jobs did in terms of management was bad.
Well, I think that it's a beautiful kind of example of why so many of those pop psychology and pop business management books are utter rubbish, because you just need someone charismatic who has big vision, who can do everything wrong according to the book, and can create Apple, and I think that's part of what's the kind of what's so fascinating about Apple as a company and a brand for so many people, it shouldn't have worked as well as it did.
Yeah. Well, here's the thing, is that you can already see without Steve how the wheels are turning in a different direction. For the first time, they're offering, dividends to their shareholders. He went and visited Foxconn. He went and visited, China. Literally, Steve Jobs did not visit China at all as the CEO of Apple, ever. So it's completely different under Tim Cook. It's still a very, very similar organization. But Tim Cook is the guy who set up all of the supply chains. This is where he fits into the whole thing. This is why they made him CEO after Steve. He's the guy who set up their supply chain and everything that they've done right in the last 10 years, really. Basically what they're doing now is they're saying, yes, we don't have the creative Zen genius that was Steve, but we still have, really, really good relationships with suppliers. And we have, when they saw that the Asus UX31, the Ultrabook that looks almost identical to a MacBook Air, they went to Pegatron, the company that makes them and also makes the MacBook Air, and said, listen here, dump them. And they did. Asus had to go out and find a new manufacturer for the next generation of them, because Apple's that hard in there.
But the thing is that a lot of people are now watching Apple incredibly closely. So I'm just going to say this just to gloat, but I have the new iPad. Just want to say that. Yeah, I do. Who wants to touch me? And I went and looked at all the reviews, because the first thing you want to do once you've made a really impulsive tech purchase is you want to validate it by seeing that all the reviews are actually really positive. And there's a lot of kind of people picking on very fine points about the iPad. I know you spoke about the iPad 3 in last week's show or the show before, but about how the battery is it's a bit bigger, slightly less minimal. It's a lot bigger.
Double the size, which means it's almost double the charging time.
Size doesn't matter, Dave. Surely you've told this to enough women.
Probably. But either way, is that it now takes double the time to recharge, pretty much, which is the one gripe. And the second gripe is obviously because of that.
It actually won't charge on my crappy Dell at all.
And it can't. No, it doesn't charge. My iPad 2 doesn't charge off of any laptop whatsoever. You have to use a 2. It has to have enough voltage, but that's all of them.
Yeah.
The problem is also that there was apparently it's 10 degrees Celsius hotter when you're gaming. So under those specific conditions where you've been gaming for 20 minutes and the GPU has finally burnt out enough power that it's actually heated up.
And it's like the temperature of a warm cup of coffee.
Yeah, but it's
not going to incinerate your testicles.
It's 30 degrees. It's just this one is now warmer than body temperature, whereas the iPad 2 was.
But it's like I say, it's this kind of people are watching them so closely, and anything that indicates they're a step away from that perfectionism.
Today, I think they had 98.6% customer satisfaction for the new iPad.
But that's partly just because you walk around and you pick it up and you say, everybody, this is an iPad 3.
Look, I had a look at the screen. I took mine and I put someone else's next to mine, and we had the exact same picture.
No.
And it is phenomenally different.
It's stunning. So I went and played in store and compared the two because, I was thinking maybe this is actually just a ridiculous purchase, but oh my goodness. And gaming on this thing, like you say, it's so immersive. It's so
And again,
pretty.
what game are you playing, Sam?
Okay, we'll talk about it in pick of the week. It's not something that really needs a retina display.
Super high definition.
Fine, just blow my cover there, Dave. Casual social gaming addicted. But it's so beautiful. I just want to stroke it all day.
No, look, they really, specifically with that battery, they've done. I don't know how in God's name they managed to make it 0.4 of a millimeter thicker and double the size of the battery.
Yeah.
There's some random wizardry that's in there.
Maybe it's little hamster.
It's Jonathan Ive. It's not random. Sir Jonathan Ive. It's not random.
Sir John.
Yes, Sir John.
No.
Sir Johnny.
It's not wizardry.
I don't
it's
think
him.
he'd like it
really
called
good.
Johnny.
They call him Johnny.
Really?
Yes, Jony.
Just seems so. Oh, anyway, it doesn't seem like a Johnny. Okay, so away from Apple.
As the ZA Tech Show hardly ventures.
Yes. Yeah, never. Let's go into the unknown sort of other spaces of not Apple. Did you guys hear about the controversy around the Girls Around Me app?
I did.
See, I personally haven't, so I'm here to.
Oh yeah, we can tell you. Yes. Do you want to go?
So basically, what somebody did is they wrote an application which taps into Foursquare
and Facebook,
and identifies using publicly available APIs, not doing any like bad hacks or anything like subterfuge, only using publicly available information, sort of on the map. So you hold up your thing, you fire up the application, and it goes, "You are here," and within like a certain distance of you, these are the girls who have checked in. So at this club down the road, there are 15 girls there now who have checked in the last hour. This is
and
who
then
they
you,
are.
And then you can click on them,
and this is their Facebook pages.
Exactly.
And
all their photos,
so
their likes.
There. You can go, hello, Sam. I see you like.
No. You've got to know.
Like Dungeons and Dragons.
You've never read the game, have you? No, you've got to be much more subtle.
I'm completely unsubtle.
So a throwaway neg of, that looks like the face of someone whose favorite book is so and so, and surprise them.
You look like a Game of Thrones fan.
Yeah,
oh, how can you tell? Pasty skin.
Yeah, exactly. You've read the game, haven't you?
But once it broke, it didn't take long for Foursquare to pull.
But I mean, hang on, it's been available for months.
It just all of a sudden got popular.
Absolutely.
Somebody wrote an article over the weekend. Somebody wrote an article on one of the sites. I saw the article. And that got picked up by people on Twitter and retweeted. And
there was another web app a while ago, sort of about a year ago. I can't remember what it was called, but it was
the lollipop one.
No, not that one.
That actually proves how much access you're giving to the web.
Who really
this is
cares?
Basically where it's coming
we can
from.
have this security debate again. Who really cares?
It's not really the security debate so much as everyone's out there. It's just about what level of sharing you actually enable. Specifically on Facebook, if they can see everything that about you.
I mean, I think I don't really give it a crap, really.
I just wanted someone on the back of this app to create the mirror app called Find the Douchebags Around Me.
Find my cheating boyfriend.
No. Just like douchebags around me, and basically all it would do was show you the locations of anyone using the Girls Around Me app. And then as a girl, if anyone comes up to you and you're like, you're that douchebag who
Steve
is
73.
There we go.
Bastard.
That's the obvious corollary. But it is an interesting example. I mean, they weren't breaking anyone's rules. They weren't breaking Foursquare's terms of use. They weren't breaking Facebook's terms of use. It was all totally above board. It's just PR disaster. So Foursquare's now blocked them.
Foursquare were the first to block them, and Apple have kicked them off the App Store as well.
Yeah.
So
I'm not entirely sure why. It's just a more obvious. But I mean, it's kind of just a more obvious way of doing what other services allowed you to do
Yeah.
with a little bit more digging around.
And it's automating a whole lot of stuff.
Yeah, so it's now only the dedicated creepy stalkers who are going to find us.
People who are jailbreaking their phones just so that they can stalk girls.
Yeah.
Amazing. I mean, what is the most sort of pointless mobile app that you guys have come across? Pointless or odd?
Wow.
Because there's plenty, right?
They are, but I don't really download them. So
Yeah.
try to stay away from pointless apps.
I'm a bit addicted to apps. I don't know.
You'll get over it.
No.
It takes a good 3 months, and then your iPad's full. And
I was addicted. No, not even on the iPad. I was first addicted to apps as soon as I got a little Nokia feature phone 5 years ago and could download stuff from the OV store whenever the OV store launched. Yeah.
There was one which was like an SA radio app,
Yeah.
and I downloaded it, never used it,
Yeah.
and then discovered TuneIn Radio, and never looked back.
I suppose that's a particular category of useless apps, and specifically where brands try to remake very popular apps better, but always just end up doing a poor imitation. So there's a whole bunch of brands that have tried to make their own version of Foursquare, in some way, like who's checked into the McDonald's around the world or whatever it might be.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
mean, you have to
And they
really,
fail.
you have to really be clever if you're going to do something like that. You have to make it compelling for the
Yeah.
for the user, and you have to give away lots of stuff.
Yeah.
If you want a spot on I could have a separate app for like rugby and cricket and soccer. I have a cricket one because the Cricket Info app is really, really good. But I also have the Supersport app,
Yeah.
which is really useful if I
It's
just
a
want to
very
know.
good app, that. Yeah.
If I just want to know like the score, like especially like rugby or cricket or whatever, I just wanted to know what the score was in the very bad cricket game yesterday where the Lions lost. It was a very bad weekend
I think
for
it's a
my
fantastic
teams.
game considering the Praetorian team. The Titans won. Just not.
Don't attack me with your sport
She's going,
talk.
"What's this
You're
cricket thing
confusing
talking
me.
about?" But
One would think that the Pretoria resident former Pretoria resident would have.
But they have live commentary from
Yeah.
the games and things like that. So for local sport, it's really, really good. Cricket Info is probably better for international.
Yeah.
But for local sport, you
Yeah.
got soccer, you got cricket, you got rugby. They do blow by blow commentary on the thing as well.
Well, that's
Yeah.
the thing, and the fact that we watch all of our sports on Supersport
Yes.
predominantly.
I must say I
it's
have-
really not so difficult when
Yeah.
they say download the Supersport app, and you're like, oh, Supersport app, yeah, man.
Sure, yeah. I mean, I do think you've got to hand it to them, though. I mean, Supersport, I think they are one of the very few media companies in South Africa who've really done that well.
Yeah.
They've seen that this is important and they've invested in it.
Well, they also have their little Walker.
Yeah.
It streams
A little
sports
TV guy.
live.
Yeah.
That is
10
one of the
channels
greatest
or
things
whatever,
ever
straight-
made.
I think I would think about getting one for the Olympics, just so that you can
Yeah.
watch those really embarrassing sports like ribbon twirling. I'm a tomboy, but I kind of love ribbon twirling.
Called
Rhythmic
gymnastics.
rhythmic
It's because it's so
gymnastics.
pointless.
Synchronized
And silly.
diving.
Synchronized
That's
swimming.
also great.
Synchronized diving is the
But you kind of
business.
want to walk her so you can watch it silently without anyone knowing you're watching it. It's just a
Well,
bit too embarrassing.
I've got a DSTV, the Drifter.
Yeah.
And last year, during the Currie Cup final, I was like, saved my life because I was at a music concert and I was sitting there with my iPhone and my Drifter and going, come on!
Cheering at the wrong time in the song,
Luckily, they managed to not start the concert until after the rugby was over.
How considerate.
I had to put in a special request for that.
I'm sure that was the reason that happened. Yeah. Something else that came out in the last week was a lot of drama about MTN and they're kind of getting into some hot
Yeah.
water in Iran.
So this was the lead story of the Mail and Guardian this
Yeah.
week, and it's been around for a good few weeks as well. But for a few months, in fact. So it started when MTN put out an announcement that Turkcell were considering suing them around the issue of who legally should have won the license to own 49% of the Iranian cell phone network.
The only one there, I think,
Yes.
or something like that. The government owned
Yeah.
the other 51%. It
Yes,
was
the
pretty
government-
much licensed to
Yeah.
print money
Yeah.
for
No.
4 years until another competitor came in.
And so this week the Turkcell actually filed court documents in the U.S. court. Apparently there's some law in the U.S. which dates from like 1790, which means that you're allowed to, if you think you've been hard done by, you can file it in the U.S. courts. And maybe I think Turkcell are looking for sort of a level playing field, or they just think they're going to get a favorable result out of the US.
Yeah.
Like you take patent courts to some two-bit town in the heart of Texas. Maybe they think that they'll get a better deal out of the US juries than they will out of especially because nobody in America likes Iran.
No, not so popular right now.
So I mean, basically, Turkcell just don't want the license. They just want the money.
Yeah.
They want about 32 billion or something ridiculous like that. Some ludicrous amounts of money. But basically, the allegations are that MTN connived and bribed people and promised things and got the South African government to intercede on Iran's behalf at the UN in order to get Turkcell kicked out and get MTN put in their place.
Scandal.
I mean, I've heard stories that it was sort of MTN were in at first, and then suddenly MTN were out and Turkcell were in, and then suddenly Turkcell were out and MTN were in. So, I mean...
So do you think it's largely just a mud fight then?
I think it's very much a mud fight.
Okay.
But I don't think...
or a sand fight, since they're in Iran.
Sand fight.
True story. It's a sandstorm.
But it's, I mean, I really think that the extent of what goes on in the African and Middle Eastern telecoms game.
It is a dirty game,
is largely hidden from us little innocents. And it is a game of bribery and corruption and backroom dealings and smoky rooms and who you know and who your friend is and how much you promise to do.
Which is how a lot of business happens across a lot of the world.
Yes.
I mean, it's not just limited to the mobile. Although, I think mobile, you're playing with some real money in the telco industries.
I think the oil game is the dirtiest game.
Yeah.
And telecoms is
I feel more puns coming on.
Is a close second.
Chat rooms coming up with, is it a sandstorm in a teacup? Ow.
Yeah. But I think you really are dealing with a situation where people on the outside actually have no idea.
Yeah,
I mean, even the journalists who are digging into this, looking through the court papers, speaking to their sources, really don't have a clear handle on exactly what happened 5 years ago in Tehran. Because it really was. I mean, I remember because I was quite monitoring the whole thing quite closely at the time, and it really was like I thought Turkcell had won this. Why are MTN suddenly in? And then you heard stories about, there were issues around shareholding and how much money had to be put in. And all of it, I think, was just sort of smoke screens to hide the truth. But what the truth is we have no idea. I mean, I think what happened in Iran was whoever was willing to put the most money on the table got the deal, and MTN happened to put the most money on the table. And I'm not saying that was they were trying to bribe anybody. I'm saying that the overall package which MTN put together in terms of how much money the Iranian shareholders had to actually put in to build the network, they kind of went, Turkcell, MTN, we have to put in less money, so let's kick Turkcell out and put MTN in.
Days of our lives.
And the most interesting thing is going to be the next big, the last frontier for telecoms in this space is Ethiopia. Yeah. Because Ethiopia has one cell phone network run by the equivalent of Telkom, very badly. They have the lowest cell phone penetration in the continent, probably virtually in the world, apart from probably maybe North Korea.
But do they really have an economy that could support?
Ethiopia has like 100 million people.
But are there 100 million people who can afford telco services?
Yes, they are. And if you had to say, okay, people, we as the Ethiopian government are going to own 60% of this company, you can own 40%, and you have to spend all the money building this network, you would have the telcos queuing up at the door to do it, because it is the last untapped virgin market in Africa where there's no competition. And there is competition, but they're completely useless. And you could just walk in and own that market, and there's 100 million people you can tap into. Yeah.
Interesting time. So who wants to go and start up a business in Ethiopia, guys?
Well, you have to get past the government first, and that's the real trick.
Yeah, I'm not very good at bribery and corruption.
When you look, I mean, what's that, 100 million subscribers?
Yeah.
China's just announced this month that they passed 1 billion mobile subscribers.
Everything, numbers just totally, collapsed in China.
Warped in that country.
So I was recently doing some work with a brand who's trying to do some online marketing stuff in China. And so I've spent a lot of the last couple of weeks on the phone having sort of teleconferences with people working in digital marketing in China. The internet is a very different place. Like,
great
I mean, we
firewall.
know that, but when you actually go and spend some time there, oh my goodness, it's different. It largely looks like the internet in 1994, firstly, but just behavior is very different. People are a lot more into sort of avatar-based social networks than name-based and human,
I think that
real life.
there is
Very interesting.
I mean, I think the closed nature of the Chinese internet, the Great Firewall of China, as people like to call it.
Yeah.
I think that pushes people towards anonymity.
Yeah.
You don't want to.
Although it's not like everyone is hiding behind an avatar so that they can, write cutting prose about the political situation.
No, but I mean, if you feel like everybody's spying on you, you never know when
Sure.
a word is going to be taken out of context.
Fair enough.
Or you might say something like just as a flippant remark, and it's just safer to be anonymous.
The other interesting thing about social media there is that it's incredibly hierarchical in that it's very much segmented by income level as to they've got a number of large social media networks. They've kind of got about 5. And that are really quite heavy hitters there. And, if you live in if you live in a very urban area and you're a professional, you'll be on a certain network. And if you kind of are living in a semi-urban area, you'll be on a totally different network. And it's kind of very broken down by income, which kind of interesting.
And if you work at Foxconn, you have your own special social network all to yourself.
Yeah. Very,
which
very
you have to pay
interesting.
$10 a month to use.
Yeah, very, very
Which is
interesting.
a third of your salary.
Yeah. The last thing I want to talk about before we go to your picks, and Dave and I are going to arm wrestle over one pick, and I think I might win, Dave.
I think you've won already.
Well, she does have control of the volume buttons.
I do.
so-
I can always just turn you off. No, I'll let you have the good pick. I've got backups. So we were kind of talking about this before the show went live. The new SimCity work in progress. So there've been some interviews recently with the team, and they've kind of released some screenshots and some information about what it's going to be like. And I am so excited. I haven't been this excited about a game, I think, in a long time. Not just because it's nostalgic, but because the complexity of what the game is trying to do. It's kind of almost getting to that point where you're not playing a game, you're controlling something that's almost as complicated as real life, and that there's so many different factors.
Well,
So,
being the gaming blogger that I am,
Dave.
I have the official statement from them,
Go,
which is quite
shoot.
fun. So Maxis, the company that makes it, they were basically saying that each city will have like Sims in it that can get lose jobs, buy homes, be prosperous, and the cool thing is that you can have your little region with all your friends around you, and their economy and the state of their city and what's going on around you affects yours as well.
So if your neighbor is kind of is a mining city, you'll be able to import cheap coal from them.
Exactly. If they have massive pollution, it'll start affecting you because they don't, care about it. And if they have a natural disaster, you can send help to them.
But just the fact that algorithmically, there are individual people in your city that each have desires. Statistically, stuff will happen to them or not happen to them, but it happens to them as individuals, which is really exciting.
I think the trick is although there are distinct individuals in the city, the joy of SimCity is not having to deal with those people.
Sure.
To deal with it
Spoken like the true.
on an abstract basis.
Misanthrope you are.
No, but if you're the mayor of a big city, you can't worry about Bob and Joe and Pete and Susie, and
you'd be a terrible mayor.
You worry about them
heartless.
as demographics. You worry about people living in an area. You worry about people who have a certain demographic profile.
Yeah.
But you don't worry about them as individuals. Now, what I'm hoping this will do is although it's creating those people as individuals and using the power of the computer to create individual people and run all these complex stuff in the background, I don't ever want to see that.
Well, I want to see it when I destroy my SimCity with the giant Godzilla guy, and then I want to see individuals running out of their homes screaming. Maybe it's just me.
But I want to see that, and I want to see them acting in a realistic way.
Yeah.
But I don't want to necessarily have to go, Bob lost his job.
Yeah.
I don't care about
Sure.
Bob losing his job. I care about that 100
overall
people have lost their
unemployment
jobs,
rate.
or 1,000 people have lost their jobs, and I need to do something to stimulate the economy of my city.
Yes, yeah.
That's what SimCity is all about.
Yes.
I mean, my favorite SimCity was SimCity 2000.
Oh, it was great. I love
because
that one.
it was just simple enough that you could get everything running and enjoy it. But once SimCity 3000 came along and all the various ones afterwards, it kind of lost that just get in there and start playing.
So I suppose
fun
there's
of
a
it.
point where a game becomes too much like reality that it starts becoming as boring as reality. You know, like games are much better than reality in that they're more interesting. They're abstracted. You know,
I don't get to run around in a spaceship shooting aliens.
You
saving
could
the
if you
universe.
wanted. I would not stop you. I would laugh at you, but I would not stop you.
There we go. But see, it's just that point, you know.
Yeah.
It's great escapism, and you
Sure.
really don't want to escape into the exact same thing.
Yeah. Well, unless you're building Second Life, I suppose.
I wonder-
You
Never got the point of Second Life.
You could. Did you
Yeah,
ever see the American Office where Dwight builds himself in Second Life, and he's exactly like himself, except he can fly. That's the point of Second Life.
I was watching something
I
on
see the point now.
I was watching something on Discovery Channel the other day,
Yeah.
and it was like, you know, the computers and the worlds in the future, and then they switched to, and they started talking about Second Life, and it was like, okay, so this is really old.
Yeah, definitely. Okay, so on that note, let's descend into the absolute foolery of pick of the week. Dave, let's start with you. You can have that pick.
No, it's
no,
fine.
do it.
I've brought my number one pick of the week into the studio,
Okay.
which I'm extremely excited about. I stole my friend's PlayStation Vita, which is, of course, why you have best friends who are busy doing master's thesis, because you can actually ask his mother to, confiscate his PlayStation Vita and give it to you.
Yeah.
Which is what I did. I'm a bastard. What can I do? But anyway, it is...
Pays to be friends with your
Absolutely.
friend's mother.
Yeah, 11 years of friendship gets you pretty much able to screw your best friend out of his games console, which is fantastic. So
You had to screw your
5-inch
out
out of a games console.
to get a games console.
Yes,
Sorry.
she's awesome. Anyway, so 5-inch AMOLED 5-inch OLED touchscreen in the front of it,
Yeah.
touchpad at the back. First one with actual dual controllers or whatever. So it actually makes playing shooters pretty cool. I've been playing Uncharted, and the graphics look pretty damn amazing, considering, it's quad-core processor with quad-core GPU, and it just humps hard.
Cool.
It's fantastic. And then my second pick, which I think is a strangely random sort of concept going on, it's something called... the website is play-fame.com. It's basically what they're doing is you sign up to the service with your Twitter account, and every day they pick one of their subscribers and make everyone on the entire service follow him. And at the end of the day, they all automatically unfollow him unless they liked what he was saying, in which case they keep it. So it's
quite
sort of
fun.
crowdsourcing followers or whatever. And what
Yeah.
they're trying to do, unfortunately, the website blocked from here. But anyway, what they're trying to do is they're trying to make the next Lady Gaga. So,
Yeah.
1 million followers on Twitter. And
But hang on,
basically-
Lady Gaga does not have 1 million followers because she's interesting. Let's be honest.
No, but that's the thing. So
Yeah.
they're just trying to build a 1 million follower account by basically, let's say everyone listens to Sam for a day. I think there's like 8,000 people at the moment because it started sometime last week. But,
Yeah.
8,000 people listen to you today and they all think you're cool. And then tomorrow, 4,000 or 5,000 of them are following you. All of a sudden, one of the larger Twitter accounts in the country.
Wow, yeah.
Just in
So
one
there's your
day.
15 minutes,
See, there we go.
Yeah,
And
I
that's
kinda like
pretty
it.
much what it works on. So,
Yeah.
it's just in its infancy. I think there's like 6,000 to 8,000 subscribers at the moment. And Johnson ZA stealing thunder. Look at that. Anyway, yeah, so those are my two picks. I'm going to leave Sam with the awesome ones.
That's funny. Sorry, there's a big debate going on in the chat room right now. Ben, what is what are your picks? I'm sure
I
you're
have
gonna
a pick
more than
one to start with.
Yeah.
Now, I have an iPhone, as people would know, and I love my iPhone. And I have a package from Vodacom which gives me 500 meg of data per month. Okay, and if I don't use that data, it rolls over to the next month. Except that rolled over data only starts being used once you run out the next month. Now, my logic says you should use the data which has been rolled over first and then go on to the next month's data. But it doesn't. So I end up with...
Does that matter though?
Okay, so I end up with 30 meg
Yeah.
expiring on the 31st of March and 60 meg expiring on the 31st of April.
Oh, okay.
And if I don't get... now that 30 meg which I didn't use, even though it's been sitting there since January or since the end of February, I haven't used it. I have to completely exhaust my current allocation of 500 meg before I get to use my rollover data. Surely the logical thing is to use the rollover data first and then go on to the current thing, so you can start building up a nice little buffer for yourself. Instead of being 30 meg, you maybe can build up a nice buffer of like 100 meg. So when that month you do something stupid and watch too much YouTube on your phone, and you burn through your 500 meg really quickly, you have 100 meg there, sitting there as a nice rolled over.
And I'm going to tell you where the failure comes in, is that business at the end of the day is all about profit, which means it's the auditor in me is about to tell you something very strange now. So to recognize their revenue, what they have to do is they have to have a point at which they can say, your 500 meg worth of data cost you 150 Rand. We're recognizing that revenue after the end of 2 months because we guarantee it's been finished by then.
Yeah.
So from an accounting perspective, that's why it may be that they just want to screw you over, but the logical business sense behind it is that after 2 months we understand that 150 Rand is now definitely
and you put it in the books. Dave, that actually makes perfect sense. Thank you. You are like the Bill Nye of accounting. And
there is also a point, I mean, I also understand that if you think of it also logically, it's a lot easier to say at the beginning of the month, your 500 meg starts now. And you burn through that 500 meg, and there's this little pool sitting at the end which you can then pull on. And each piece is, so there's not, it just seems, when does your 30 meg run out and your 500 meg start?
Because in the back end it literally says on the 1st of April, Ben Kelly 500 megabytes, go.
And he has 30 meg left over from last month.
And then it just says, there's this little reserve pool that's left over, and then there's only like space enough for them to record one reserve pool at a time kind of thing.
So I think I also understand that. So I do understand
Dave,
but it does irk me that from a customer perspective, there's the bandwidth which I can't use, which I might not be able to use unless I go a little bit berserk.
They could still make you get through that first, couldn't they? Because the rest of the data still expires when it expires.
I guarantee you that there'd be a lot of regulatory pressure and things like that not from ICASA and things like that, but more from JSE and their shareholders and stuff, because they're now messing with accounting standards. And in this day and age, after financial meltdowns and Anderson Consulting and Enron and all of that, there's a massive amount of pressure that's been put on auditors, and it's boring, and that's why I don't do auditing anymore. And essentially that's where it's coming from.
Okay. So that was my pick on. It went a bit longer than I thought.
What's your pick?
My pick is, now, if anybody has watched The Guild, which is a web series about online role-playing games. Massively multiplayer online role-playing games. The person who created it and who's the lead actress mostly, and that is a lady by the name of Felicia Day, who
is awesome.
Who the ground that she walks on, I worship. She's also been in Eureka, which was fantastic, and she was in Dr. Horrible's Sing-Along blog, and in a few other things.
And a lot of other things.
And so what she has done is she has leveraged her phenomenal talent and created a YouTube channel called Geek and Sundry, which is a series of essentially, I suppose, video shows. So there's Dark Horse comics. So animated. They're specifically doing it for the channel. There's a thing called The Flog, which is Felicia's blog, online blog, which is she just gets to do stuff which she feels like doing. There's a whole thing on tabletop gaming. And it just goes on and on and on and on. So
basically, it came about YouTube when they restructured. Because they want to push more into TV or whatever, they financed, I think it was 20 different channels where they're pumping in a lot of the financing on their own. And Felicia Day approached them then with the idea. And because YouTube's full of a bunch of geeks and it's Felicia Day, let's be honest, they weren't going to say
my evening gone? Thanks, guys. Thanks, Ben.
Well, luckily it's only just started. So you can get in early. It only launched today. They did a bit of a subscription drive yesterday where they were online for the whole day. I think for 12 hours, like trying to drum up people to subscribe. So they now have... how do you see how many subscriptions the thing has?
Damn you, YouTube interface.
So when you're feeling empty inside because you've watched Game of Thrones and there's nothing else to watch, then you
111,000 subscribers.
Not bad for 24 hours.
Not bad.
And not close to 1 million video views. And this only just kicked off. So I mean, I think so. There's the Guild. There's So that's but there's about 5 or 6 shows. Will Wheaton does a show. So I mean, it's really all the cool stuff that you want all in one place, and you can just geek out completely.
That sounds awesome. Good picks, Ben. Well done. Oh, exciting. I do have to follow that. Okay, so I'm going to be greedy because I have the control panel and pick 3. My first pick, which I stole from Dave, because, well, we both had the same pick. If you haven't heard of this app by now, you probably should have, because it is the new big thing, kind of recently acquired by Zynga. It's a little app called Draw Something. And the most addictive sort of casual app game thing that you will come across this year. If you are on Draw Something, it's basically Pictionary that you play against people you know on your phone. If you are playing it, please challenge me to a game. I can't stop playing, so I need more people to fill my hours. My Draw Something handle is the same as my Twitter handle, greenham_Sam. Challenge me. It's amazingly addictive. And the reason it's so much fun is that everyone draws really badly. And even if you're playing against a fine artist, they're still drawing with their thumb on their phone, so they draw really badly. It's very, very funny and awesome. So give that a go. My second pick. All of these new Tumblogs, this new craze of wonderful single-themed Tumblogs. My new favorite one is something called screenshotsofdespair.tumblr.com. Basically what it is it's a series of screenshots of all of the really tragic and mean things that error messages say to you across the internet you don't notice. So things like, largely from social networks, so things like those messages that say 0 friends like this, and you completed this activity with no one, and no one is here right now,
one person likes you,
that sort of thing. It's just really, really funny. It's kind of this archive of why people feel sad and lonely on the internet sometimes. Is very, very funny. What's that one?
There's a map here and it goes, find my friends, and it's got no friends. It's like the whole of south of England.
Yeah, it's really, really funny.
The whole of south of Sweden.
Yeah,
Stockholm, and there's like no friends. No
friends are here right now. My worst is the sad robot with the balloons on Google Plus Hangouts, and there's no one is here. It's just you're all alone. Very existential. And my final pick of the week is a little bit of a retro old school one. So I dug up a very old film over the weekend from 1984 called Revenge of the Nerds.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, have either of you guys seen this?
Yes.
Yeah, oh my goodness. So it's worth watching, firstly because watching any movie about nerds from the 80s is hilarious. So, I mean, firstly, these nerds are way ahead of their time because they somehow managed to, in one day in a college dorm room, build a sentient robot. Pretty impressive. They also they type without looking at the keyboard, and yet somehow manage with one hand to create these incredible animations on a green and black screen just by typing with one hand randomly. So it's really funny from that perspective. But it's also kind of interesting because the whole premise of this film from 1984 is how the set of nerds are terribly persecuted and picked on by all the jocks at the university, and they get their own back because they're nerds and they outthink them, and it's awesome, nerd power and all of that. But it's amazing to kind of look back at as recently as at 1984 and how maligned nerds were and picked on, and there's this moment at the end of the film where this guy stands up at the pep rally and he says, I am a nerd. I am a geek. I'm just going to pronounce it proudly. I think now, in Mr. Price, there are t-shirts that say Geek of the Week, for $20, and everyone's buying them. Everyone's buying these lame hipster glasses, So it kind of warmed my heart a little bit to think how mainstream geekdom is becoming and acceptable and less pick-on worthy.
Well, it was Bill Gates who said, don't be mean to geeks, one day
you'll work for
boss.
them. Yeah, and I think that day has come. So it's a bit of a time walk back to 1984.
Speaking of the movie, there was a really cool poster on the internet.
Yeah.
There
was something cool on the internet?
Yeah, no. I had to troll for hours to find something. Really.
I don't believe you.
9gag place. Don't know if you've heard of it. Anyway, so it's the lead character from Revenge of the Nerds. Or Revenge of the, and there's Steve Jobs there, and he's coming to attack their house, and he's like, "You'll never get in, Steve Jobs." And he goes, "I am the president of the most powerful technology company on the planet. What do you think could keep me out of your house?" He goes, "My keypad has more than one button in it." Door, it's like 3 buttons. And Steve Jobs on his knees going, "No!"
Oh, that's great.
It's fantastic.
So yeah, Revenge of the Nerds. You might have seen it back in the 80s. I was before I was born, but it's definitely worth reading.
Children.
Yeah. Anyway, and on that note, I think it is 1 minute past 8. So let's call it quits. If you're listening live, we'll let you get back to dinner and anything else that you might be doing, which won't be nearly as interesting as listening to us. Dave Greenway at Dave Greenway on Twitter, or hashtag Random Dave.
Depending on if I invade your office on Friday afternoon.
Yeah, I knew Dave for a year as Random Dave, who was the odd guy who just kept hanging around our offices and beating us all like Geek 30 Seconds.
Trying to get a job.
Yeah.
Champion at that, by the way.
Yeah, Geek 30 Seconds.
It's the business.
Absolutely. Yeah. I made half those cards, I'll have you know. It's going to be a thing.
All of them.
I'm going to sell them. Anyway, so Dave, thank you for joining us tonight.
It is as always a pleasure.
Hope we'll see you soon. And Mr. Ben Kelly at Benedict Kelly on Twitter, isn't it?
Yes.
Yes, from the Mail and Guardian and other sundry places, and his cave, which has fibre to the caves,
yes.
FTTC, the next big thing.
FTTC, the big thing, yes.
Thank you for joining us this evening.
Thank you.
Bringing your Mac.
Yes, you notice that when Sam runs this, it starts at 7 and ends at 8.
Yeah, my surname is German, I'll have you know. Anyway, that's just a thing. And I'm Sam Beckbessinger, and it has been a wonderful episode 205, so thank you for joining us. The ZA Tech Show is made possible by Vodacom. Power to you at vodacom.co.za, and by BlackBerry. Love doing business on your BlackBerry smartphone at blackberry.co.za. Good night.